One girl, one yellow brick road, one journey that changed movie history forever.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And here he is, the Wizard of Wiz, if ever a whiz there was.
The Wizard of Oz wasn't just a musical, it became one of the most iconic films of all time.
My goodness, I can talk again. Oh, oil my arms, please. Oil my elbows.
But behind the singing, the glittering ruby slippers, and the magic of Oz,
Just try. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
the real story is far stranger and far more shocking. Here are 20 shocking facts you didn't know about The Wizard of Oz. 1. Judy Garland was only 16 and pushed to her breaking point. When Judy Garland stepped into Dorothy's shoes, she was just a teenager, sweet, innocent, and completely under the control of MGM Studios. To keep her slim enough for the role, executives forced her onto strict diets, often limiting her to chicken soup, black coffee, and handfuls of cigarettes to suppress her appetite. It didn't stop there.
You are? Oh, I beg your pardon, but I've never heard of a beautiful...
To keep her energized during long filming days, the studio allegedly gave her pep pills to stay awake, followed by sleeping pills to knock her out at night. This brutal routine took a serious toll on her health and set the stage for lifelong struggles with substance abuse. Judy was also constantly criticized for her looks, with MGM even binding her chest to make her appear younger. Despite the pressure and mistreatment, she delivered an unforgettable performance, one that made Dorothy an icon, even as the real girl behind the role was being pushed to the edge. 2. Buddy Ebsen nearly died as the original Tin Man. Before Jack Haley ever wore the silver makeup, the role of the Tin Man belonged to Buddy Ebsen. At first, everything seemed fine, until the makeup started killing him. The studio used a shiny aluminum powder to coat his face and body, which looked great on camera, but was toxic when inhaled. After just a few days of filming, Ebsen began experiencing severe breathing problems, chest pains, and full-body cramps. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors discovered his lungs were coated with aluminum dust.
My goodness, I can talk again. Oh, oil my arms, please. Oil my elbows.
His condition became so critical that he was placed in an oxygen tent for weeks. Production didn't pause. They simply replaced him with Haley, switching to a safer paced makeup. Ebsen never returned to the set and later said the experience haunted him for life. Most fans never realized that the Tin Man's original actor almost lost his life bringing Oz to the screen. 3. Jack Haley still suffered as the replacement Tin Man. After Buddy Ebsen's near-fatal reaction, the studio hired Jack Haley to take over the Tin Man role and switched to a new aluminum paste makeup. While it was less deadly than the powder, it was far from safe. The thick paste had to be applied in layers, covering his entire face and neck, and it hardened under the hot studio lights. Hours of wearing it left Haley's skin raw and irritated. During filming, the metallic mixture got into his eye, causing a painful infection that forced him to take time off for treatment. Even his costume added to the misery. Made of stiff metal and heavy padding, it restricted his movement and caused bruising on his body. Despite these conditions, Haley managed to keep smiling on screen, delivering a performance that audiences loved. But behind the iconic "If I Only Had a Heart" song, the actor was quietly enduring real pain every single day. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome movie facts. And tell us in the comments, what movie brings you the most nostalgia, and which one should we cover next? 4. Margaret Hamilton was severely burned filming The Wicked Witch's entrance. Margaret Hamilton's terrifying performance as the Wicked Witch came at a shocking cost. During the scene where she makes a fiery exit from Munchkinland in a burst of smoke and flames, real pyrotechnics were used to create the effect. The timing went horribly wrong. As the trapdoor beneath her opened, the flames erupted too soon, setting her copper-based green makeup and costume on fire. Hamilton suffered second-degree burns on her face and third-degree burns on her hands. She was rushed to the hospital and forced to stay away from the set for weeks while her injuries healed. Even after returning, she refused to work with any open flames, forcing the crew to use a stunt double for dangerous scenes. Despite the ordeal, Hamilton continued with the role, cementing herself as one of the most iconic villains in movie history. Few knew the price she paid to bring that unforgettable witch to life. 5. Her stunt double was horribly injured during another witch scene. Margaret Hamilton's burns weren't the only accident involving the Wicked Witch. For a later scene where the witch flies across the sky on her broom, the filmmakers used a special effects rig that involved a smoking pipe built into the broomstick. Stunt double Betty Danko stepped in to perform the shot, strapped to the broom as it was lifted into the air. Mid-scene, the pipe overheated and exploded, sending flames directly into her leg. Danko was thrown to the ground, suffering severe burns and painful injuries that required an 11-day hospital stay and major skin grafts. The explosion destroyed the broom, leaving the set in chaos. The injury was so bad that Danko walked with a limp for the rest of her life. Despite this horrific accident, she returned to complete the film's remaining stunts. While the Wicked Witch terrified audiences on screen, behind the scenes the role was just as dangerous, if not more. 6. The snow in Oz was actually asbestos. The magical snowfall that drifts gently over Dorothy and her friends in the poppy field looks beautiful on screen, but it was anything but safe. In 1939, artificial snow didn't exist the way we know it today, so the studio used chrysotile asbestos, a dangerous material later linked to lung disease and cancer. At the time, asbestos was widely used in household products and Christmas decorations because it was fireproof and cheap. The cast and crew had no idea they were breathing in hazardous fibers while filming the scene. Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and even Toto were all covered in the toxic flakes during multiple takes. While no immediate harm was reported at the time, knowing what we do now makes the scene downright chilling. The snow may have looked harmless, but it was one of the many behind-the-scenes risks that gave this magical movie a dark side. 7. Flying monkeys caused chaos with dangerous wire stunts. The flying monkey scenes might look whimsical in the finished film, but filming them was a nightmare for the actors involved. To create the illusion of flight, the performers were strapped into heavy harnesses attached to thin piano wires, then hoisted high above the set. The rigs were experimental and barely tested, which made them incredibly risky. Several times wires snapped or malfunctioned, sending actors crashing into the painted backdrops or slamming hard onto the stage floor. Injuries were common. Bruises, cuts, and sprains piled up as the scenes were filmed over and over. The wings and costumes made the stunts even harder, weighing the actors down and throwing off their balance mid-air. Despite the accidents, the production pushed forward, determined to capture the perfect shots. When audiences watch the monkeys swoop across the sky, they're seeing real performers risking serious injury to make the fantasy of Oz come alive. 8. Toto the dog was injured on set by a Winky guard. Terry, the small Cairn Terrier who played Toto, became a fan favorite, but filming wasn't easy for her either. During the chaotic scene where the Wicked Witch's guards marched through the castle, one of the actors accidentally stepped on the little dog's foot. The injury was serious enough to break her paw, forcing Terry to take a 2-week break from filming to recover. While she healed, a dog double was used to complete several shots. Her trainer, Carl Spitz, personally cared for her during recovery, making sure she was comfortable and safe. Despite the accident, Terry returned to finish the film, performing most of her own stunts, including the scenes where she bravely runs across sets filled with smoke, fire, and loud noises.
I thought you said she was dead.
That was her sister, the Wicked Witch of the East. This is the Wicked Witch of the West.
She was paid more than most of the Munchkin actors and became one of the first animal stars in Hollywood history, earning her place as an unforgettable part of Oz. 9. The Munchkin hanging is just an eerie myth. For decades, a disturbing rumor haunted the Wizard of Oz, that during the scene where Dorothy and her friends skip down the yellow brick road, a Munchkin actor can be seen hanging from a tree in the background. The creepy story spread through VHS tapes and early TV broadcasts, convincing many that something tragic had been accidentally captured on film. In reality, the figure moving in the distance wasn't a person at all. It was a large bird. The production borrowed several exotic birds from the Los Angeles Zoo to make the forest scenes feel alive, and one of them just happened to spread its wings in that shot. The movement combined with the grainy footage created the illusion of a hanging figure. While the myth made the film even more infamous, the truth is far less sinister. The only thing lurking in that scene was an innocent bird enjoying its moment in the spotlight. 10. The Cowardly Lion's costume was made from a real lion. Bert Lahr's unforgettable Cowardly Lion outfit looked authentic for a reason. It was crafted from the real fur and skin of an actual lion. The studio sourced the hide to achieve a lifelike texture under the harsh Technicolor lighting, which made synthetic materials look fake.
Shucks, folks, I'm speechless.
While it looked incredible on screen, the costume was a nightmare to wear. It weighed nearly 90 pounds and trapped heat like an oven, leaving Lar drenched in sweat after every take. Under the blazing studio lights, temperatures soared, and the actor had to take frequent breaks to cool down. The costume was so cumbersome that it required extra care and constant cleaning, which only added to the production's challenges. Despite the discomfort, Lar's performance was full of energy and charm, making the Cowardly Lion one of the film's most beloved characters, even if his iconic costume came with a very real and unusual origin. 11. Dorothy's blue and white dress wasn't actually blue and white. Dorothy's gingham dress is one of the most recognizable costumes in movie history, but it didn't look the way audiences think.
Off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Here he is, the wizard of a wizard, ever a wizard.
Under the early Technicolor process, certain colors didn't register well on film, so costume designer Adrian used a trick to make the dress appear vibrant on screen. Instead of classic blue and white, the fabric was actually a light blue and pale pink checkered pattern. The pink balanced the color tones, allowing the cameras to capture the dress as a true blue in the final print. Multiple versions of the dress were made, including a fancier test version that never appeared in the movie. Today, only a handful of original dresses survive, and they're considered priceless pieces of Hollywood history. One even resurfaced in 2021 after being lost for decades, proving just how legendary Dorothy's simple little dress really is. 12. Only a few Dorothy dresses survived, and they're worth millions. During filming, several identical gingham dresses were made for Judy Garland to accommodate reshoots, costume changes, and wear from long days on set.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Here he is, the wizard of a wizard, ever a wizard there was.
Over the decades, most of them disappeared into private collections or were lost entirely. Today, only a handful, believed to be fewer than 6, are confirmed to still exist. Each one has become a treasure of Hollywood memorabilia. Museums fight to display them, and collectors are willing to pay astronomical prices to own a piece of cinematic history. One dress famously resurfaced at a Catholic university where it had been forgotten in a storage room for nearly 40 years. It went up for auction, bidding soared past expectations, with some dresses fetching more than $1.5 million. These surviving costumes are more than fabric. They're artifacts of a film that continues to enchant audiences nearly a century later. 13. The ruby slippers became the most valuable movie props ever. Dorothy's sparkling ruby slippers are perhaps the most iconic shoes in film history, but they were never meant to be so legendary. MGM originally planned to use silver shoes, as described in the original book, but the studio switched to ruby red to take full advantage of Technicolor's vibrant palette. Several pairs were created for filming, each slightly different depending on the scene. Over the years, only 5 authentic pairs have been confirmed to exist, and each one is guarded like a priceless treasure. One pair was stolen from a museum in 2005 and recovered more than a decade later by the FBI. Another pair sold at auction in December 2024 for over $32 million, smashing records and becoming the most expensive piece of film memorabilia ever sold. The slippers aren't just shoes, they're a glittering piece of Hollywood magic that continues to captivate collectors worldwide. 14. The tornado effect was a low-tech masterpiece. The twister that sweeps Dorothy's house into Oz remains one of the most convincing effects in early cinema, but it wasn't created with any fancy technology. Instead, the special effects team built a 35-foot-long muslin stocking shaped like a funnel and attached it to a rig on a soundstage. The top was connected to a crane, while the bottom was anchored to a movable base, allowing them to swing and twist it like a real tornado. To enhance the effect, they sprayed Fuller's Earth, a fine dust, into the air to mimic swirling debris. When combined with clever camera angles and lighting, the result was shockingly realistic, especially for 1939. This simple yet brilliant trick proved that creativity could outshine budget, and it's still studied by filmmakers today. The tornado may have looked like pure movie magic, but it was really just fabric, dust, and a lot of ingenuity at work. 15. 4 different directors worked on the film before it was finished. The Wizard of Oz may look seamless on screen, but behind the scenes it went through a revolving door of directors. The first was Norman Taurog, who shot early tests with Judy Garland but was quickly replaced when the studio wanted a different tone. Richard Thorpe then stepped in and filmed for nearly 2 weeks, giving Dorothy a blonde wig and heavy makeup that MGM later scrapped entirely. Thorpe was fired, and George Cukor briefly joined the project, not to film but to restyle the characters and guide Garland toward a more natural performance. Finally, Victor Fleming took over and directed the majority of the movie, shaping it into the classic we know today. Ironically, just before the film wrapped, Fleming left to work on Gone with the Wind, and King Vidor filmed the black and white Kansas scenes. Despite the chaos, the final product became a masterpiece of cinematic history. 16. Reshoots transformed Judy Garland's entire portrayal of Dorothy. When early footage was reviewed, the studio realized something wasn't working. Under the first director, Richard Thorpe, Judy Garland was given a blonde wig, heavy makeup, and an almost doll-like appearance that didn't fit the character. Her performance felt stiff and unnatural, so MGM brought in George Cukor to rethink Dorothy's look and personality. Cukor immediately ditched the wig and makeup, telling Garland to play the role as herself, sweet, innocent, and real. This change required several scenes to be reshot, replacing the earlier footage. Cukor didn't stay long, but his advice shaped the Dorothy audiences fell in love with. The softer, more authentic version of the character became one of Garland's defining performances. Without those reshoots, Dorothy might have felt like a fake Hollywood creation instead of the heartfelt girl who captured hearts around the world. Sometimes a small change can make movie history. 17. Scarecrow's mask left Ray Bolger in pain. Ray Bolger brought the Scarecrow to life with his rubbery movements and expressive face, but his costume was far from comfortable. The mask he wore was made of thick rubber and glued tightly to his skin, leaving little room to breathe or move naturally. After long hours under hot studio lights, the adhesive would irritate his skin and sometimes tear when removed, leaving painful marks. The burlap makeup around his eyes also caused itching and redness.
Is a wizard a whiz, if ever a whiz there was. If ever a whiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one big...
Bolger endured it all, performing complex dances and stunts while practically suffocating under the mask. His dedication paid off, creating a scarecrow that audiences still adore generations later. 18. The Munchkin actors formed lifelong bonds on set. The 124 dwarf actors cast as Munchkins came from around the world, many working in entertainment for the first time.
Very sweetly. We're doing it so neatly. You've killed us so completely.
On set, they faced long hours, challenging costumes, and at times felt isolated from the rest of the crew. But during production, they formed a tight-knit community, supporting one another through the demanding shoot. Some even found love, with a few marriages resulting from their time in Oz. After the film, many stayed connected, later helping to form advocacy groups for little people. Their experience in The Wizard of Oz created friendships that lasted a lifetime. 19. Buddy Ebsen's voice still appears in the film. Although Buddy Ebsen was replaced as the Tin Man after his near-fatal reaction to the makeup, traces of his performance remain. The studio kept some of his pre-recorded vocals in the final soundtrack, particularly during group numbers like "We're Off to See the Wizard." This means audiences still hear Ebsen's voice blended with the rest of the cast. Even though he never appeared on screen, a part of his work lives on in the movie forever. 20. The film almost failed before becoming a classic. When The Wizard of Oz premiered in 1939, it wasn't the instant hit many assume today. The movie was incredibly expensive to make, and despite positive reviews, its initial box office returns were underwhelming, barely covering production costs. It wasn't until the film was re-released in 1949 and later broadcast on television in the 1950s that it found its true audience. Over time, it became one of the most beloved films ever made, winning Oscars, inspiring generations, and cementing its place in cinema history. That's The Wizard of Oz, magical on screen, but full of chaos behind the scenes. From risky stunts to groundbreaking effects, every challenge shaped this timeless classic. If you learned something new, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. What's your favorite moment from The Wizard of Oz?